Hello there! Welcome to my furniture transformation video where I will show you the steps I went through to change the appearance of this cute little side table, aka Project George. I picked up this side table for $10 along with a cabinet that I will have a video on soon. If you'd like to see more furniture transformations, please click the subscribe button, and if you could click the thumbs up button on this video, I would greatly appreciate it. Before we begin any project, we need to assess the substrate that we're working with. This top is a laminate top with wood print on it. You can feel and see it when you look up close. Looking at the back, we can see it's laminate over pressboard. We also have some manufacturer markings on the back, but I wasn't able to find any details on the maker of this piece. There's veneer over top of the body of the side table. It's quite pretty, but likely muted by a coating of tinted lacquer. There's also a small crack on the side of the veneer where it looks like the tabletop was screwed in. On the front of the side table there is printed vinyl tape, which is a lot harder than laminate top along the outside of where the drawer slides in. Inside the drawers is a lot of dust. The drawer has a wooden slider, which I prefer to work with because you can wax the slides to make the drawer open smoother. On the left side of the side table, we have some damaged veneer and also dogs. The veneer is damaged, but it's not massive and should be easy enough to fill up. Lego said we need to clean this table up, so let's begin. I'm going to use Fast 505 Degreaser from Zepp to clean off any grime and surface grease that may have accumulated on the side table using a microfiber cloth after I've thoroughly sprayed the side table down. Cleaning before you sand or paint any surface helps remove grease that may create issues with adhesion later. After a thorough wipe down with a microfiber cloth, I came back and I wiped the entire side table down again with a damp cloth to remove any residue the cleaner may have left behind. To prep, I'm going to begin by removing the handles. It turns out there's a decorative piece behind the handle, so there's 4 screws where the handles are screwed in instead of just 2. I did not see that on my first go round, so I thought that was kind of interesting. From this angle, I also spotted a little reset tool that was hidden between the drawer face, and I made sure to remove that. You want to look out for these things. I've actually found sewing needles inside of drawers, especially like smaller cabinets, and you really don't want those things ending up on your floor, especially if you have pets around. I'm going to use my Milwaukee ratchet multi-tool to remove the handle as well as the decorative piece. When removing the handle, I always take the screws and then screw them back into the handle once it's removed. Just makes it easier so that I don't lose the hardware pieces, especially when I'm not going to be reusing something and I need to find it later. If it's screwed into that handle piece, then I can just grab the handle out and use the screws that it comes with. After I removed the wooden decorative piece, I did the same thing and I screwed in the original screws in the back. There's also more of that hard vinyl lining, the circle behind the wooden decorative piece, so I'm going to set that with my wooden decorative piece for installation later. Inside of the drawer, I used my chisel to gently scrape off whatever had been inside of the drawers, taking care not to actually chisel the drawer bottoms. Since I'm working on the drawer, I noticed that the face of the drawer was veneer, which is pretty typical, and that would mean that it's just like the body. You can see how thin the veneer is by looking at the underside of the drawer typically, as long as it's not painted. I wanted to keep the wood face on the drawer front, and to do that I need to make sure I don't sand through the veneer. I chose to use my carbide scraper to scrape the very thin layer of lacquer finish off of the drawer fronts. Carbide scrapers are pretty simple to use. I prefer it for smaller projects because then I don't have to deal with messy strippers to remove any finishes. When using a carbide scraper, it's important to go with the grain as much as possible, so that way you don't tear the wood grain. Veneer is still wood, just remember that. I also needed to patch up the chipped veneer on the left side of the side table. Since the veneer damage is on a corner, I'm going to use Varathane's 2-part wood filler. This is going to harden up quite a bit more than regular wood filler and provide a bit more stability on that corner. When you're mixing it, don't use a massive amount of the tube mixture, as that's going to cause it to harden too quickly. I did some experimenting that I'm not going to include in the video, but just so you're aware, I smeared toothpaste on the wood to polish it. It's a new trend I saw on TikTok. Just kidding, of course. The drawer is actually stained with a white gel stain that I just recently had purchased, and I really wanted to see what it looked like, so I tested it out on an individual drawer, and here we are. I didn't really care for how it took to this specific type of veneer, so I grabbed Special Walnut, and what I'm doing right now is, because I applied the stain probably around 10 to 20 minutes ago, is I'm simply reactivating the stain because it had not dried yet. So I'm using the Special Walnut stain. I applied it on the top, and you can see it's all cloudy, and I'm just wiping it off. I repeat this process about 2.5 times, depending upon how white or light colored the wood is after I've applied it. While the stain was drying, I grabbed 100 grit sandpaper and my orbital sander, and I gave the side table a good scuff down sand. Typically I would use 120 grit sandpaper, but I'd actually ran out and ordered a new pack on Amazon, which was a really good deal, and I'll link it below in the description if you're interested. For the inside of the cubby hole, I used a 120 grit sanding sponge to scuff up the surface since the orbital sander was too large to fit inside of there. Any sanding block will work. Since I had laid the side table over to sand the cubbyhole, I noticed that there was a nail just jammed into the backboard of it, which I went ahead and removed with some needle nose pliers. We're finally to the good part, paint! For the paint, I'm going to use Melange Artisan Mineral Paint in the color Gator Green. I'll link Melange's website below in the description so you can take a look. This is my second time using Melange Mineral Paints, and I really enjoy the color palette and how smooth the paint dries even if you're using a brush. I chose to use my Wooster shortcut brush for this because there isn't much room to get into the side table cubby with a longer handled brush. I applied the paint in light, even coats. It's going to dry streaky on the first painting, but it's okay, that's how it's supposed to look on the first coat. I also wanted to have a black accent color against the Gator Green, and I had some DIY paint in Black Velvet on hand, which is not a true black. It's more of a lighter tone, which I thought would complement the bright green on the body really well. I used a craft brush to apply the paint inside of the circle of the drawer, and I also applied the paint to the legs of the body. This paint works differently than Melange and is quite a bit thicker, but the same principle of applying a thinner coat still applies if you want to get a smooth finish, and you're going to want to make sure that your brush is wet while you're applying the paint. I actually realized after finishing applying my first coat of paint, I'd forgotten to seal the crack in the veneer on the right side of the side table. To fix that, I just used paintable caulk and filled the seam, and then you just wipe away the excess with water. Pretty easy fix. When I went in to apply my second coat of paint, the drawer details that were hard plastic started to peel. I had a suspicion that this would happen. Melange recommends that you use a primer on these types of surfaces, but I really wanted to test the limit. It did adhere to the laminate top that was scuffed up nicely, but this hard plastic vinyl stuff hardly had any scratches, so it makes sense. I ended up removing the paint, and then I applied Zinserbin primer to that part, and that fixed the problem. After my little non-priming incident was resolved, I ended up applying 3 coats of Melange paint to the body and a total of 2 coats of DIY paint to the legs and the detail on the drawer. The next day, I came in and used my Varathane water-based polyurethane and satin to coat the drawer and the body of the side table. I do wet my brush beforehand because it makes a less streaky finish when I'm applying using a brush. You cannot do that with oil-based polyurethanes, just water-based polyurethanes. I also tend to use a larger brush because it means I need to do less passes to get an even, smooth coat. Don't worry if you see streaks, these will dry. If you're using like a black or a dark color and you're applying a lot of coats of polyurethane, you can mix a little bit of the paint with the polyurethane to tint it. I did not need to do that for this project. I only applied 1 coat of polyurethane with a brush, and then I used my Minwax polycrylic to seal the legs and use the rest of the can, which is an aerosol can, I didn't mention that, to do the second and third coats on the side table just because I had it, and I used the rest of the can up. And here's the final result. I did replace the pull with a newer, more modern black pull. I love this color and how it turned out. I think it just has so much more life to it. Leave me a comment below if you think Project George was a success, and if you have any questions, let me know. As always, thanks for watching.